Researchers have investigated so-called crypto-terrestrials. These could be disguising themselves as humans to fit in, may come from Earth's future, or might have descended from intelligent dinosaurs. This guy's from Harvard. This guy got all the mushrooms. They're probably doing a Harvard mushroom study, and this dude just stole the stock.
I honestly think, look, the study was just to come up with an answer. Like, give us some fucking answer.
Oh, this is a different John Travolta.
Michael?
Michael.
Yeah.
Oh. When he's named
Hold on,
Michael.
put that back up.
All right, one thing at a time. Sorry.
Bro, the hair is nuts.
Look at this. Aliens might be living among us disguised as humans or in a base inside the moon, according to a new Harvard study. Yo, when there's Harvard studies is saying there might be a base inside the moon. How wild are things right now?
Oh, my God.
This is so crazy.
But none of this is, it's not really that, like, shocking.
Right. It's not that shocking.
Once you have knowledge of the other realm, nothing's impossible. Nothing in this life is impossible or fucking shocking anymore.
Well, it's still shocking.
It's shocking
exciting,
slightly,
but space is insane. This is way less insane than what we know about space.
I mean, space and water. The deep sea is something that's fucking as crazy as this to me.
As crazy and undiscovered.
It's fucking nuts.
You always do it this way.
Yep.
And if you change the way people are allowed to go after political candidates, and you change the way you're allowed to silence and imprison your candidates, then we're like Mexico. We're just not assassinating people yet. You know, we're like a third world country. We're like a banana republic. We're letting things other than the will of the people and what's best for the people be what's running the thing. We're letting the thing be run by the people that are in power, that are corrupt, that want to keep the power.
Famous family over there. He's telling all the stories of but one of the stories which you will like was him and my friend Robert, who died, and his cousin. They were in a bar. It's like 1980s and Midtown. So Hell's Kitchen is connected to the theater and all the Madison Square Garden. So in a bar, some guy starts with Mike Spillane. He hits him. The guy's friend grabs him around his neck. It's Andre the Giant.
Oh, my God.
They're in a fight with Andre the Giant.
Oh, my God.
And he picks him up and flings him, and it's like a whole famous story of them fighting, getting their ass kicked by Andre the Giant.
Oh, my God.
Who
is the Hawk Tua girl taking over TikTok?
Because it wasn't her original video. She was doing an interview, right?
Yeah, some guy in the street says, what do you have to do to make a guy crazy in bed?
Spit on that thing.
Once upon a time, two girls were out on the town in Nashville, Tennessee, when a
on that thing, you get me?
No, don't fast
to which
forward.
one woman replied,
Oh, you gotta give him that hawk too and spit on that thing, you get me?
So they go, it's haunted. And I'm talking to the kid that works there, and he goes, listen, he goes, I didn't believe any of this shit. He goes, I've worked here for 2 years. It's real. He goes, Lucy, they knew the names of the ghosts. Lucy, she's a redhead. He goes, I open the mirror when I'm here alone at 1 in the morning because it's kind of a really out of the way place, you know?
Yeah.
He goes, he starts describing all these things that happened. You're like, oh, God. So I do believe this place is sure.
Guy's taking over. I'm just going to get my brain teleported. Exactly. That's the ultimate leap, right? Imagine if they get to a point where they say, we can download your brain into a computer, but you will cease to exist right here, right now, and you just have to assume that it's whatever consciousness is in your head is your life. And it's not just a faction of that consciousness being in a very particular state and time that consciousness is being attached to this particular biological body in this particular place. Like, what makes you you? And if you take that shit out and stick it in a machine, what kind of horrific existence is that? What's screaming into the abyss? And it's not imagine if they get to a point where they say we can download your brain into a computer, but you will cease to exist right here, right now, and you just have to assume that it's whatever consciousness is in your head is your life, and it's not just a faction of that consciousness being in a very particular state and time, that consciousness being attached to this particular biological body in this particular place. Like, what makes you you? And if you take that shit out and stick it in a machine, what kind of horrific existence is that? What's screaming into the abyss, unattached from a body, but trapped in a newly created computer dimension because you didn't get to go to heaven because you got trapped in a metal box.
It's amazing.
Is it this book?
That's the one. It's crazy.
It's a crazy place.
It's wild. And it starts out, you're like, oh my God, it started on the most bloody, but somehow everybody knew it was significant even then. Like, it was never this place that people weren't like, they were always like, no, this is the place.
What do you think about that? Do you think, does that make any sense?
What?
Like, is there a place that's more holy than other places?
You mean like Sedona?
Yeah, like Sedona's a good one. That's the good one for hippies. Guy's taking over. I'm just going to get my brain teleported.
Exactly.
That's the ultimate leap, right? imagine if they get to a point where they say we can download your brain into a computer, but you will cease to exist right here, right now. And you just have to assume that it's whatever consciousness is in your head is your life. And it's not just a faction of that consciousness being in a very particular state and time, that consciousness being attached to this particular biological body in this particular place. Like, what makes you you? And if you take that shit out and stick it in a machine, what kind of horrific existence is that? What's screaming into the abyss, unattached from a body, but trapped in a newly created computer dimension because you didn't get to go to heaven because you got trapped in a metal box.
God,
It's still sealed. The top is sealed.
Get ready, boys.
Oh, yeah. Here we go.
This shit fires me up.
Here we go. Oh my God, I'm smelling it from here.
Oh.
Woo!
No,
Good
get in there, B. Get in there, B.
No, get through that.
So we have a system in space, a satellite system called SBIRS, Space-Based Infrared Satellite System. It's like the Paul Revere of the 21st century. It is parked over our enemies that have nuclear weapons, and it can see and detect a nuclear launch of an ICBM in a fraction of a second, Joe. Confirmed fact. That's why nuclear war begins and ends in 72 minutes, because the SBIRS satellite system sees the launch, and then the U.S. Nuclear Command and Control goes begins. And by the way, an ICBM cannot be redirected, and it cannot be recalled.
But what's scary is how many Democrats are willing to allow this kind of stuff to happen. But a lot of them are aware of it. There was this one lady that went viral, and she was talking about it, and she was saying, you have to understand, like, I'm not a Trump supporter, I don't like Trump, but this is really dangerous for democracy. Nobody can justify this, and nobody can say this guy should be in jail for this. And this is Robert Epstein's work.
The Creepy Line, the documentary, everyone should watch it.
Yeah, and this thing is very real. And what it is like if you try to Google certain negative stories, like negative stories on people, it will overwhelm you with positive stories. It'll take a long time before you get to the negative stories.
Yeah, how he explained it is here's how they can tip the scale.
Yeah.
If I Google Hillary Clinton, and I have it so Google gives fairly positive stories about Hillary as the first 10 results, you're not going to go to the second page. If I Google Donald Trump and Google gives you 7 negative stories, it's going to move the needle a little bit toward her
Quite
and against
a bit.
him. Yeah.
Quite a bit. Like if you're a person who's on the fence, you're like, maybe Donald Trump's not a bad guy. And then you Google him, and then you start reading some of these like pieces that they've written about him. It'll change your perspective.
You really think she's going to win?
He's the most highly credentialed person at the university, practically, at Stanford Medical School. We consider that a big deal. And he's worked on this for over 10 years, assessing the injuries to U.S. servicemen from being in close proximity to these objects or having contact with these objects. And his conclusion, as you know because you've talked to him, is that there's some kind of energy coming off here that scrambles people's brains or kills them. And it's not exactly radiation, at least in his telling to me.
I'm kind of a soccer mom on social media just to infuriate people. That's my whole game. But I do, I've been doing this series called Block by Block on YouTube, which is with this guy, a homeless pimp, him, Mike Lavin. But I
didn't know you were doing this.
Yeah, no, I have a bunch of episodes where I interview. It's my little, like the thing I care the most about doing it, which is I interview people from different neighborhoods that in New York that I know over the years, and then just get them to tell stories about their neighborhoods.
When I was living in Boston, I came to New York for a karate tournament, ironically, in like 82, 83, I think. So I was in high school, so probably 83.
Love it.
And I was like, this is nuts. Like, this place is fucking nuts.
It was nuts.
It was nuts. It's like all peep shows and pimps and hookers.
Yes.
And just, it looked black and white. Like this, like even
Yes.
though it was like in color,
Yes.
like everything looked black and white. It looked dirty and seedy, and there was just junkies on the street.
Yep.
And people with like long coats and people yelling at people. And you're
Yep.
like, yo, this place is nuts. Times Square was a place that everybody avoided.
But he started telling me, did you ever hear this one about Mick Jagger, about the people in wheelchairs? Because, you always feel like, oh, Keith was the cool guy, Mick was the... Mick Jagger every day, every show for 20 years would take this guy Kevin, put on a hoodie so nobody could recognize him, go up, because in those days they put the wheelchairs in a, if you were in a wheelchair, they wouldn't let you be with your friends. They'd put you in a separate wheelchair section in the balcony. Everybody in a wheelchair had to go. Mick Jagger would go up with 8-tracks, T-shirts, hand them out, never told the press, never made sure nobody knew about it except this bodyguard, and talk to all the people in wheelchairs and give them T-shirts and give them 8-tracks for 20 years.